with you about my recent trip to Cuba. So those of you that don't know me, my name is Allan McClendon. I'm a graduate of Andover Newton Theological School, graduated in 2018 with a master's in pastoral studies. And so, as Dean mentioned, I am now the minister of hospitality over at First Baptist Church in Jamaica Plain, which means that I'm the kitchen coordinator as well as a social justice community pastor who is doing food justice work. You know, I never knew all these years that I was cooking food for my community and helping others. I never knew I was doing social justice work until I got here to Boston. I had a rough life growing up in Chicago, on the streets of Chicago, constantly gang violence all around me. And I was living in a foster home. I grew up with, I have an identical twin brother. And we were kept together. We were raised in this very violent home until we ran away when we were 15. And so I've been learning, growing, and discovering myself ever since, and fell into many, many years of drug addiction. And I lost many friends and partners due to HIV and AIDS, and became positive myself in '87. All of that came to a head. I had a cancer diagnosis in 2006. And that helped me to find my way back to my faith, which is in God, Jesus Christ. And I had believers' baptism at the Baptist Church in Uptown Chicago, but they eventually kicked me out for being a gay man. So I was like, okay, God, what do I do now? And that's when God sends angels, and MCC Church came to Boys Town in Chicago, and that was like unbelievable. I can't believe this is here. And so I started attending, sitting on the back row, crying my eyes out, until I decided to join. And I was asked to do hospitality. Can you do the coffee hour for a couple of weeks? The guy needs a little vacation. 2 weeks turned into 6 years that I did hospitality with MCC Chicago. And I grew into wanting to become a pastor and a leader, the leaders that helped me find my way back into the light. And so that's when I felt the Spirit guide me to come here to Boston. And then I decided to go to seminary. So I've been here for 7 years now. And I just, I find this social justice work, it's great to be around more like-minded people than myself, like myself. And I've just been growing, learning, and changing ever since. So I was asked to go to Cuba I was invited actually to go with the board members from First Baptist Church in Jamaica Plain to go to Cuba. Pastor Ashley is the senior pastor there, and she established a relationship with Cuba, I think in 2017, when the sanctions were first opened for religious organizations to visit. They reopened touring and things. They wanted to kind of break ground and establish a church to partner with us in the Baptist Alliance. And so we went on a mission trip to pick the best out of 3 churches to align with us in the Baptist Alliance. And so I went with my wide eyes open as an uninformed American, because I've never been off of American soil. This is my first time ever getting a passport and traveling out of the country. So I was really, really excited to go. And it all came together well. I mean, the money and everything, which, you know, because you have to deal with cash only. That blew my mind, that we had to deal with cash, and we weren't able to use our phones over in Cuba. Nothing American works over in Cuba. You know, our phone service or our credit cards and debit cards, none of that. So it was like walking around in Cuba with no cash for 6 days. But actually, my friends helped me out. We were able to exchange money, and all that was new for me. So we went with a group of 6 people. It was myself and Dr. Dorina, which is one of the members of the church, and Kevin Whalen, which some of you may know. He's like a social justice leader, big time here in Boston. Great teacher, excellent roommate. And the pastor's daughter went. We had a snarky 16-year-old girl who went with us. It was kind of fun to have her around, her vibrant energy. And one senior member who was 94 years old. So she was getting around pretty good for her age out there in that heat. So when we first arrived, we were there for 6 days. And when we first arrived that evening, they showed us a film. I can't remember the title of the film, but it was about a troubled young boy who was growing up in Cuba and probably in Havana. And it was like, this is the true life story of Cuba. And the kid was troubled in school all the time. He was kind of one of the bullies too. And he grew dogs. He groomed dogs and breeded dogs to fight and raise money. These dogs fight and they win. The ones who wins make money. And the child's mother was also a prostitute addicted to opioids, this very current issue. And later in the story, they found out the boy's father, which was the woman's pimp, turned out to be the boy's father too. But anyway, it was a lot of drama and a lot of realities that came together in that movie. They were kind of giving us a backstory of how Cuban life is. One thing one of the people said that really stuck with me is that in Cuba, there's no upper class, there's no middle class, we're all poor. We all consider ourselves poor, so nobody's better than anybody else, and we just help each other. When we see need, we just help each other. So I really love that. And the first church we visited was it was out in the suburbs of Matanzas, I believe, and it seemed to be like an older grain congregation. They had a few grandkids, they kind of skipped a generation, and the grandkids were there. And we worshiped with these three churches. We worshiped with the first church, and Pastor Ashley preached at that church, and it was really exciting how the lights kept going off. The lights had power. They had power outages, and the power went out for several times during her sermon, with the sound and everything. But the people still came together and supported it, and they made us a really nice dinner. So that was the first church we got to that passed our audition, I guess, that we got to ask questions to. And we had translators, we had tour guides, we had a wonderful couple that were our tour guides and our translators. They were also musicians and pastors. So it gave me an idea of a new kind of life. How sometimes we look for a career change sometime in our later in life, like I did. That's something that they didn't foresee becoming pastors, as they learned Spanish, and they come from North Carolina, but they learned how to talk to the people and live in these different conditions and get what they need, funding to live there and go back and forth as missionaries. So it really inspired me that that's something that maybe I might want to do one day. The second church that we went to visit was also in the suburbs. Forgive me because I don't speak a word of Spanish, so I can't remember the name of the town. But this church had a lot of the same vision that our Baptist church has in Boston, because they have a second story that is unfinished, just like we do. So they had an unfinished upstairs that they serve food at. They make food and they have dinners and parties. It's a small space, but they have a vision of completing that upper room so that they can fundraise and have different events for their community. They were also very diverse in the kinds of people that went there, the colors of the people, and lots of different age groups, and LGBTQ welcoming. And the thing that really worked for me was that the pastor there, Pastor Manolo, he's one of the pastors that preaches at the prisons. They go out to the prisons and they serve the people with HIV and AIDS. All the prisoners, they make sure they get their medicines, and they have like a weekly Bible study and worship session. So that to me made the greatest connection because I got to tell them my story with MCC as well. And even with a translator, they lit up when they hear about MCC, they get brighter and they light up. And I loved hearing about their food program as well. They have a food program that they cook food for the community, and they call it Meals on Feet. They don't have all have cars, so they deliver the food by foot. And I found that really, really encouraging. They really check on their seniors and all the people that are ill. And you know, MCC, our founder, the Reverend Elder Troy Perry, was also in Boston. I mean, he was in Cuba at the same time that we were, and used our translators and tour guides for a day. And I was mad that I couldn't be with them. I wanted to join them, but I had to be with the Baptists. We had to finish this mission, which we also bought. We also brought a lot of toiletries, paper products, and medicines from here that we asked our congregation to save for us. And we took tons and tons of medical supplies down there with us that we split up and divided up to the 3 churches. And now the third church that we interviewed was maybe it was a great people around that church, but it was a really small church that was actually a 1-bedroom apartment in the suburbs of Matanzas, and it was something because they had young people who were coming to the church who were very tech savvy and also learning to be doctors. But it was so far out in the suburbs and so small, even if people come out there, there's no room to grow. So out of those 3 churches, we decided to choose the second choice. The middle church is going to partner with us in the Cuban Alliance and in the Cuban Baptist Alliance and the American Baptist Alliance. And we'll probably be visiting them again in 2022. I think this is going to be happening every 2 years, and hopefully they'll ask me again to participate, which I will gladly do. So some things I learned about Cuba personally is that they seem to head on medical crisis as well. There's a lot of research that was done during the AIDS crisis, and even now during this pandemic. They've seemed to have been able to manage the numbers quite well and to keep them low. And that's because they have a strong medical team, and they listen to their doctors. They listen to the medical industry, and they follow orders, and they personally check in on people. They walk door to door to check in on people and to give them what they need. So I love that about Cuba. In Cuba, I had a lot of trouble finding hot sauce. It's something that's very simple that we take for granted, but in Cuba there is no hot sauce, and so I said maybe that's because of the embargo, and maybe because of the blockade that we can't get hot sauce. And it was like, I was surprised that they don't really like their food that spicy. So I said, these are spicy people, but they don't like their food spicy, and and finally, we went to one restaurant who smuggled in some hot sauce in a mustard jar. So, so I think if the feds busted in on them and they saw their hot sauce bottle, somebody would be in big trouble. So they have to make their homemade, and hide it in a jar somehow to give to their guests. I don't know, but those things, and without having a phone, is really not fun in Cuba. And they have a love for celebrities. There's a couple of pictures I'll show you that are in the slides that you can see about some of the celebrities. So can I ask about that? There's a slide presentation that Charles has. Is it possible that you can bring that up? This is it's a brief slide presentation. When my group came back from Cuba, we weren't able to do a full, we wanted to do a real presentation about all the experiences we had. And because of the pandemic, it kind of stopped us in our tracks. So this is actually giving me some closure because we didn't get a chance to fully discuss all the things that that I learned and are still processing from this this wonderful trip. Oh, there it is. So here's a few facts that my friend Kevin Whalen put together in his slide presentation. Let's see, the Cuba facts. Population is about 11.5 million, less than population of Los Angeles. It's about 90 miles off the US coast, and it's a neighbor to Haiti, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and other Caribbean islands. Cuba was discovered by Columbus, some say, sailing the ocean blue in 1942. Tainos are enslaved, land is stolen, forced to convert to Christianity. With genocide of the Tainos, Spain imports slaves to work in sugar plantations. So by the early 1800s, slaves outnumber Spanish. Oh, did I ask for the next slide? You can stay with me. Yeah, slavery did not get abolished until 1886. So on that note, in 1803, ships carried refugees from Cuba, from Saint Dominique. They were both white European and free people of color, fleeing the fierce violence of the revolution. In June 1825, the Cuban countryside witnessed a large African-led slave rebellion, a revolt that began a cycle of slave uprisings lasting until the mid-1840s. The Great African Slave Revolt of 1825 examines this movement as its participants for the first time, highlighting the significance of African warriors in New World plantation society. Unlike previous slave revolts led by alliances between free people of color with slaves, Blacks and mulattoes, Africans and Creoles, only African-born men organized the uprising of 1825. Now there's a woman that started the revolt, and she's given credit. Name was Carmela. And I had a lot of slides to show you. I'm not that tech savvy, but they have a wonderful statue. I did get a picture of that to show you, a wonderful statue of Carmela that was, she was given credit for leading the slave revolt. Even though it failed, it gave them a future path as to how they should go about fighting back. And so slave uprisings in Cuba underwent a phase of Africanization that concluded only in the mid-1840s with the conspiracy of La Escalada, a large movement organized by free colored men with ample participation of the slave population. The Great African Slave Revolt of 1825 offers a detailed examination of the socio-political and economic background of the Matanzas rebellion, both locally and colonially. The slave trade did not systematically end until chattel Cuban slavery was abolished by royal decree in 1886. And all that can be found in Matanzas, which I look at Matanzas as being kind of like the Worcester of Cuba. It's a big city outside of the capital city. So looking back at our slides, can you move to the next slide? Cuban Revolution ousts US in 1959. Some background: by the mid-50s, US corporations own 90% of Cuba's phone and electricity grids. US corporations own half of all Cuban railroads, 40% of Cuban sugar production, and 23% of Cuban non-sugar industries. In 1956, 82 guerrillas come from Mexico on Gamara. Sorry, what is that? Oh, okay. And I've lost my place. Okay, oh, grandma, did you say grandma? Yeah. To begin revolution. 19 survive initial battle. In December 31st, 1958, with mass support of Cubans, guerrillas topple the Batista regime. There's so much of that that I don't, there was so much history coming at me at one time. We have that Kevin Whalen, that was my roomie. He was just spewing all of this revolutionary history, and there's so much to process coming at you. Everywhere you turn, there's beauty. Everywhere you turn, there's art, and everywhere you turn, there's political. There's political propaganda or pictures demeaning what things that they went through. There's so many battles and so many revolutions that I can't even just pick one to stay with. So trust me, I learned so much. I learned a lot. Still processing. Next slide, please. Cuban achievements since the revolution. 85% of Cubans own their own homes. 2.2% unemployed rate in 2018. That's very low. Cuban Hunger Index has Cuba ranked tied for first of the absence of hunger among 187 global South countries. You know, that's one thing that I noticed in Cuba well, there was something recently that said there's no George Floyds in Cuba. I missed that webinar. I really want to know what that's all about. But it was great to see how that homelessness was frowned on in Cuba. They help their own. There's I think it's even banned by law for them to do any panhandling on the streets. So that's seems like something that's working for them. In medical reasons, Cuba has 3 times as many doctors as the US, exports them. There's a high life expectancy, low infant mortality rates. Cuba makes 80% of its own pharmaceuticals. That's interesting. That's why they say the people are getting their HIV meds. They're not sure if they're the best, but they're getting something. They have a highly organized public health system, upstream causes of illness. Slide number 6 is about the U.S. government reaction to revolution. It's destroy it. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna skip over that one because there's a lot I don't understand. That's Kevin put there. There's a lot about bombing power plants and petroleum production. There's a lot about chemical warfare here. So there's a lot I don't quite understand yet. So I'm not gonna go too deep into that. But slide 7. If you can move to slide 7, you can see the U.S. government also uses military attacks, assassination attempts, and other means. In 1961 was the Bay of Pigs, the invasion where 1,400 militiamen were sent up against 300,000 volunteer militia. There's been numerous attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, at least 8 plots. Zita, like I said, there's a lot of history there, a lot of back and forth revolutions and battles, some that were won, most lost. And what is this he has here about exploding cigars and scuba suits contaminated with fungus? These, wow, booby trap seashells and other things, some really nasty tactics to kill the enemies. Let's move to the next slide, please, which is the last slide here. The challenges facing Cuba today. The blockade causes several shortages in medicine, food, industrial machinery, etc. It cripples the economy and makes daily life difficult. Some examples: MRIs at hospitals from 2010 sometimes can't get a Tylenol at pharmacies. The autos are from the 1950s, many of them are, and gas shortages make transportation challenging. And it says much of Cuban housing is in disrepair. Yeah, there are a lot of old homes, dilapidated homes. I've seen most of those homes have like some kind of water system that they have installed. They put a giant tank on top of the building, and maybe they filter out rainwater or something. But they have a system there where they can recycle water, which I think is great that they've gotten to that far to do that. It says to build a more productive economy, Cuba has opened its economy to 600,000 private and co-operational businesses, mom and pop stores and restaurants. And a lot of those restaurants are made in people's homes. They like convert their garage space into a restaurant. Airbnb, farming co-ops. This has also led to greater inequities and inverted pyramids in wages, heightens racial inequities. So that's a lot about Cuba that I learned, and I want to show you. Let's see, there's some more pictures. Charles, do you have those pictures?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me when to talk, Dean. Tell me if I'm talking too much.
We want to see your pictures.
Oh, okay. Here is my roomie Kevin in the cap that is sitting with Pastor Manolo from the second church we visited out in Matanzas. We were worshiping with that family, that church family. And Manolo is the one that goes out to the prisons and preaches to the HIV/AIDS community and prisoners there, male and female. They have somebody for both, and even the trans as well. So he's like the facilitator of a group of like 8 pastors, he says, that come from other churches that help him with this ministry, and they come together and they make it happen. So that was a great experience and connection to MCC. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So this is not one of the churches, but it was one of the places that we interacted with. The pastors come out of that church, and that's that's their community center. It's not the Martin Luther King Center, because they have a great Martin Luther King community center down there as well that we went to. But this was a community, I think it was Center Kronos, the Center of Kronos. So it was in Havana, very local. A lot of young people go there, wonderful things they're doing in the community. It gave us a lot of ideas about what we'll be doing in the future with our Faith, Art, and Justice community building that we're building upstairs in First Baptist JP. We need a place, a venue like this in the community that can bring people together where they can show movies and do arts and entertainment and have dinners and sock hops and all kinds of things that they have in this place. And remind you, this was Christmas time that we went to. It was Christmas in Cuba. Next slide, please. Here's Pastor Ashley when she was preaching at the first church we visited there in Matanzas. Lots of translators, and that's when the lights kept going out. The lights finally went out like for 20 minutes, and we were all sitting in the dark, lots of babies screaming and crying, and it was kind of fun and exciting at the same time. They finally got the lights going. They have a pastor there who is really aging. He's in his 80s, and he's the original pastor. He's been pastor there for over 30 years. And so he's grooming a younger pastor that is going to take over leadership and let the man retire. So yeah, they were telling some wonderful stories about being a street cleaner, how he started as a street cleaner. That's actually a job there in Boston. It's a high esteemed job to sweep the gutters and to sweep the dirt from the garbage from the gutters. That's how this pastor started out. He's proud of that, and a very proud man. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, this is one of the artists we visited. His name was Manuel. I believe he's very famous there in Cuba. We got to visit his studio, and they have they have a love affair with celebrities, and this one you can see is a image of Charlie Chaplin was big in Cuba at one time. Maybe during his career, sometime he went there, or even after. And there's a lot of famous art with Charlie Chaplin in it. Can you move the next slide? He may have even done social justice work there too. Because the next slide, you'll see another celebrity, which is that a celebrity? Yeah, Danny Glover. They love Danny Glover down there. And so I'm sure he's done some political work and helped with a lot of causes there too. So that was nice to see. In fact, some of the restaurants have many pictures and collages of some of the famous people that have come through Cuba, especially Havana. Next slide, please. Oh yes. Now this is the back of the statue of Carmela. She's the person who's given credit with starting the slave revolt of, I believe it was 1846. They pushed back against the slave owners. They fought back. They lost, but they established that they meant business. And Carmela was given credit for leading up that revolt, a woman. And so they have her out there just bare-breasted going at it. She is just letting anybody have it who gets in her way. And yeah, I love that image with the clouds breaking through the sun breaking through the clouds over her. They showed us that whole place where the slaves were kept, like over 200 slaves were, the men and females were kept separate, and there were about 150 in each portion of that small building. And they just imagine the conditions they lived in. I think that's it. Is that it for the slides, Charles? Is that
One more.
okay? Oh yes. Okay, this was the night at the theater. So they had a full itinerary. There was no time to rest or catch a breath. Well, we did get to sleep every night, but during the day we were on our foot constantly, chasing our tour guides. They showed us, and they took us to this wonderful theater where there was a Christmas show. And our tour guides were also musicians and sang in the Christmas show too. So they got us like a little box. They got us our own box, and it was so funny because that night we went to dinner first at a very nice restaurant, and then somehow we wound up running late, and our she was the person, the ambassador, the executive secretary that was sent with us from the Cuban Alliance. She was like the mother hen who kept us all together, and she kept me out of trouble too, because I could have got us in good trouble down there. But she said, we got to go to, and she was speaking in her language I didn't understand, but she just said, follow me. And she led us Americans to the theater, and there was lots of people in line waiting with their tickets, waiting in line, and we stormed the theater. And I'm the big Black American right in the front, leading the way and just pushing my way, following this woman that I couldn't understand, and just pushed our way all the way to the front of the line. And the people would say, oh, no, please stop, mister, please, no. But I was just following orders. And but we all got to the head of the line, and we got in our theater and got in our seats and enjoyed a wonderful Christmas show. Some of the songs are very familiar, some I did not know, but they put their own little Cuban twist on some classics. That was a wonderful night to remember. Right. And lastly, I want to show you a collage that I made that was inspired by the things I learned in Cuba. If you could walk with me, I'll turn on a little bit of light. Let's see if you can show my screen. Oh, I got to turn it around. Can you see this image?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna get my pointer out and describe to you a little bit about what each one means. So the black leopard in the middle represents the beautiful, exotic dangers of Cuba with all of its raw nature. I noticed the people to be very, very attractive and interactive, colorfully inclusive and expressive in their hair and dress. especially the young people, some of which may even be dangerous as well. There's lots of temptation, lots of hustler hookups, and prostitution is going on as well. And I was pleased to learn that they have a very minimal homeless problem in Cuba. Panhandling is even prohibited by law. And then over here, you can see this lavender and colored cross here, which were made by the women of that community of the Cronus Center. They gave us a lot of inspiration on what our Faith, Art, and Justice Center will look like with their homemade stoles and knitted tapestries. They earn a good amount of fundraising from the tourists with their art. And this purple light, twilight in the sky reminds me of the night I realized that I was in a different part of the world. I was out on the coast of Havana's ocean shore when I looked up and saw the big and Little Dipper glowing with my very own gleaming eyes. I blinked, and yes, they were still there. It was amazing. Now the cat here represents the connection that I believe Cubans have with these mystical creatures. Cats are always somewhere around, in the front or in the background. Some are wild, like our other friend here, and some are domestic. A cat is love. A cat is companionship. When my group was having lunch at a restaurant, one of my teammates could not finish their meal, so she gave the rest of it to me. And the waitress suddenly laughed and said in English, "There is a saying that we have here. Whenever you have leftovers on your plate that you want to throw away, instead of throwing it away, give it to the cat," which meant give it to me. And then also fills in a lot of what Dean was saying about the raining, it's raining cat story from 1960. That brings new meaning to me. All right, and so up here we have a gargoyle here that I put there, which represents the old world architecture of Cuba. Another familiar cat-like figure that is meant to be a presence to watch over us and protect us. On the last day of our trip, my group visited Old Havana, the original part of the capital city that just reached its 500th anniversary in being established. So I also have this piece here that I got that reminds me of the old world, Havana. And now up here are these magnetic textiles that represents our visit to a large souvenir shop that was in Old Havana that we stopped at. It was like a large warehouse with the vendors' booths on the inside, where people were selling their goods and items with their families, and they're constantly competing for your attention. The competition gets very uncomfortable. They're even screaming at you and using their children to get you to lure you over to their booths. It was definitely a very third world experience for me to witness such tactics. It was almost as bad as going through customs. And then over here we have this colorful wisp of swirl. Here represents the unpredictable tropical weather that is the ultimate atmosphere in Cuba. Very tropical and breezy and humid. And now here there's a small map of Cuba and its islands. I think you can see that. You can see, it's so small here, but if you squint, you can see that the city of Matanzas is located on the northern shore of the island of Cuba. It's much larger than the city of Havana. Havana has, since 2017 census says that they had 2.13 million population, while Matanzas have a population of 15,000. Matanzas is the capital of the Cuban province of Matanzas, which is known for its poets, culture, and Afro-Cuban folklore. The AIDS ribbon here represents the great support and work that has been done to help the civilians and prisoners of war that have a need, all of those who have been affected by HIV and AIDS. The MCC connection is a strong presence in that great work that they are doing. All right, and if you squint again, you can see this red dress. Oops. red drapes, which represents the money. This whole part here represents the money and how it's made in Cuba. So the red dress represents the prostitute, which is the world's oldest profession. And then you have the giant rooster, which I had an image. I would love to show you the statue they have in Old Havana of a giant rooster with a naked bald woman sitting on top of it with a giant fork in her hand, because that's how you feed your children and feed yourself in Cuba. But you can see the pimp is in power, and unfortunately, they both need each other to survive, the pimp and the hoe. And then down in here, you can see a little dog. You can see the dog and how the dogs are a part of the culture as well in making money. It's fighting dogs that are bred to fight people and people to gamble their money and income away and participating in these dog fights. Sad reality, but that's the culture. Then here's few dollars that I brought back. And then you can see an old cab here that was refurbished. Refurbished cars are everywhere, and almost everyone who drives one of them is self-taught mechanic. So lots of cars that are turned into cabs that can bring people where they need to get and make a few dollars. And then lastly, here is some pot holders that the second church gave to me after they found out that I was also a chef. And so they asked that when I come back, that I make them some American soul food. I agreed. Yes, I can do that. No problemo. And I just want to show you what my pastor's snarky teenage daughter, she made this into a t-shirt because she got so tired of hearing about the revolution. That was her her thoughts and ideas about what does she want to hear any more about the revolution. She sent that to Kevin. She made it for Kevin. Oh, okay. So I believe that's everything that I plan to say. Hello.
All right.
I lost
Thank you, Allan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We go like this for Allan. Buddy. That's the.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Que viva Cuba! On this, their anniversary of their independence, July 26th. So glad to get a report about Cuba on their Independence Day. I want to sing a song to close us out here, written by one of Cuba's most notable songwriters, Silvio Rodriguez. But first, I want to show you this image, which is a basket. Specifically, it's a collection basket. This is Community Church's way of saying that we could have you write a check if you like and send it to us. 565 Boylston Street, Boston, 02116. Charlie can put that up on the chat page, or else you know the address. You can also go to our website and contribute through PayPal. If you don't know, this is a difficult moment for Community Church. We have a restaurant on the first floor that's our prime sustenance. 80 to 90% of our budget comes from rental income from the first floor. They've been closed for 4 months because of pandemic, and we are negotiating with them as to what the correct and fair and just resolution to that will be. It's difficult for everyone involved, including us. We have also a boiler in the basement, which has been pronounced dead, and we are hoping to not only replace it, but replace it environmentally with electric fuel heat pumps, expensive. And so all the way to say we need all of each other's help to keep us and our tenants, wonderful tenants, Theater Offensive, Encuentro Cinco, upstairs tenants, keep us warm and air conditioned and comfortable. That's all. I will tell you about this song, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful poems written by Silvio Rodriguez. Silvio, they call Bob Dylan the Silvio Rodriguez of the United States. That's the way to say it. You don't compare the other way around. I sing this song and I think of my former roommate whose name was Mili Bermejo. She was a Mexican jazz singer, and she has since passed. She and her husband would sing this in such a beautiful way. Dan Greenspan is a bass player, and they had a piano player named Tim Ray, who has since joined us a number of times at Community Church, probably the finest jazz pianist on the planet, does an amazing version of this song in both an accompaniment as well as a solo version. But I will read you the translation. It's called Rabo de Nube, which means the literal translation is tail of a cloud. You could also call it a tornado, you know, like a cloud, and it's swirling whirlwind of a cloud. And now here's the translation. If they told me to say, make a wish, I'd prefer the tail of a cloud, a hurricane, a whirlwind on the ground, and a great rage rising, a sweeper of sadnesses, a downpour of vengeance. And when it clears up, might look like our hope. If they told me, say, make a wish, I'd prefer a tail of clouds to take away all of the ugly and leave with us the angels. A sweeper of sadness, a downpour of vengeance that when it clears might look like our hope. Si me dijera pida un deseo, preferiría un rabo de nube, un torbellino en el suelo, una gran ira que sube, un barredor de tristezas, un aguacero en venganza, que cuando escampe parezca nuestra esperanza. Un barredor de tristezas, un aguacero en venganzas, que cuando escampe parezca nuestra esperanza. Si me dijera pide un deseo, preferiría un rabo de nube que se llevara lo feo y nos dejara el querube, un barredor de tristezas, un aguacero en venganza, y cuando escampe parezca nuestra esperanza. Un aguacero en venganza, un barredor de tristezas, que cuando escampe parezca nuestra esperanza. La 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 la. John Lewis presente. Mili Bermejo presente. Thank you all for joining us. And I want to open the floor, see if there's anyone who might have a question or a comment for our wonderful guest, Allan. So glad you were able to share with us about that beautiful trip to Cuba. And I hope it's not the last time. I'm sure you have a lot more to share with us on future occasions. Anybody want to ask a question or a comment? You can put it in the chat section or ask to be recognized if you're just joining us by phone, or raise your hand if you're joining us by video. Well, I have one question. We took a trip to Cuba, a church trip to Cuba in 2001, Allan. It was May 1st, 2001. It was a lovely trip. We went to Matanzas and we went on from Matanzas to a city that's called Cárdenas. It's just past Matanzas, right near the Varadero tourist area right there. We were trying to start a sister parish community with our relationship with a couple of churches in Matanzas. They're Presbyterian churches, and we stayed at a place that was called the Center for Dialogue and Reflection. There was a minister whose name is Raúl Garcia Franco. We also went to the Martin Luther King Center, and we met Joel Suarez, who both Reverend Franco and Joel have been at Community Church before on some of their tours with Pastors for Peace. But I just wanted to see if you were able to go to the Martin Luther King Center there and be part of that. I know that Pastors for Peace always stops there. Jim Casteras is joining us now, and Jim went on a whole bunch of those caravans. So it's a strong relationship that we have there, and it's good to have you remember to us about those experiences.
Yes, Dean, we did get to go to that Martin Luther King Center. I was really impressed by the art there. They have some images that are made out of cast iron that with Martin Luther King's face and an image. It was kind of, I guess it would be new kind of art, you know, refurbished. But yeah, the grounds were full of that kind of art. And we actually ran into another group from Boston that is with the Pastors for Peace. And they come to First Baptist in JP, and we ran into them. They were coming down and said, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" So we didn't really coordinate it, but it was good that we ran into some people who are teachers and social justice leaders from Latin communities that are teaching the younger people how to become more advocates. The advocacy that I see there is really strong. And even in the arts and entertainment, like the place we were staying, it was a hostel that was in the city of Havana. Another name I can't remember, but it was right down the street from everything happening on the strip, downtown Cuba. And they let young people, they let the people come and use their spaces for music. So all these students, they let them use their space to practice and to entertain. They have, you know, they use it also at the venue to have different fundraisers. So we got a lot of examples of how to use our community in diverse ways to help each other as well as to raise money. Yeah. I'll be glad to be a part of this. I'm loving being a connection to MCC as well, because I'm planning to get ordained in both ministries so that I can become this kind of an ambassador of both.
Charlie.
Karen has a question. Karen, go ahead. Just 1 second.
Hi, folks. I'm using Charlie's headset. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Super. As everyone knows, today is a very special day all around the world to celebrate the 67th anniversary of the Mancada. And unfortunately, there's an international Zoom conference that I'm listening to simultaneously coming out of Africa. Cuba and Africa have a long, long history, and we all should know that history given what's happening here in the US. One of the participants who I listened to was Comandante Victor Drake. If people don't know who he is, he's still alive and he's in Cuba. He fought alongside Che Guevara, and he went to Africa with Che and with others to fight for the freedom of Africans in the 1960s and beyond. So this is pretty exciting. If people are interested, they can contact Charlie or me, and we can send the link because it's going to be on Facebook, etc. I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased that Dean found the flag, that Virginia and Virginia and Carol, longtime leaders of the July 26 Coalition of Boston in the 1990s during the special period, brought flags and brought banners back from Cuba during the special period. So there's a lot of history between Boston and Cuba. In fact, I signed in on the Zoom as giving congratulations to the 67th anniversary from the July 26 Coalition of Boston, which I've been a member since the 1970s. But I'll end it. There's plenty more to say, but let someone else speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Que viva Cuba. Long live the revolution. And the other thing to mention, Karen, is that how many doctors Cuba has sent in this pandemic crisis to how many countries all over the place. Countries, some of the developed countries that had shortages of doctors to attend to their own people, like Italy, Cuba sending doctors to Italy.
One of the things that Danny Glover is so loved in Cuba is Danny Glover, he's an international celebrity. He's helping to sponsor giving the Nobel Prize to the Henry Reeve Brigade, which is a brigade of doctors, as you explained, to go to Italy and to go all over the world. And it was Cuba who set up a medical school in the Congo in the 1960s. It was Cuba who set up medical schools, small medical schools all over the world in the 1960s, 70s, and beyond.
Yeah.
That's great. Great information.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Well, Allan, I want to thank you for joining us. And I want to just end by letting folks know that we have 2 programs more in our summer series, we call it, I guess. 2 programs in August. The first one is on Sunday, August 16th. Well, Seren Moudlier is a stalwart in the organization known as Encuentro Cinco. We are so very proud that Encuentro Cinco, upon no longer having their own space for organizing, which they gave up, is now joined forces with us. And we have gotten not only a bunch of really nice furniture and equipment from them, but also even more importantly, the human capital and the amazing activist energy of the likes of Seren, Charlie Welch, Sandra Harris, and another board member who is Jose Aleman, the former consul of El Salvador, who was active with E5. So we're going to hear from Seren on that day in August. He's going to be speaking on the new book that he and 2 others just recently have published. It's about activist Boston. It's called A People's Guide to Boston. I don't know the exact title, don't have it in front of me, but that's on August 16th. Sunday, August 16th, 11 a.m. Then on the 23rd, we have sort of an old home day. Bill Alberts was our minister for approximately a decade in the 80s. And at age 92 or 93 joins us. Bill doesn't get out too much, but he's still a firebrand of an author. He publishes on Counterpunch platform, just article after article. And I look forward to hearing from him again. We will be joined that day by musicians Joan Faber and Jeff Brewer, who go back almost a half a century with us. Joan sings old time songs from the 40s and is a very special talent and longtime friend of Bill and Eva Alberts. So those are the two programs we have left. I invite you all to also look for programs commemorating Hiroshima Day and Nagasaki Day. There's going to be a lot of them. And I hope you can be involved in those. I urge you all to Monday call your senators and your Congress critter and tell them that Gestapo tactics on the streets of the cities of the United States is not acceptable, and that the Senate and the House should be immediately taking drastic action to keep that from happening anymore. We send our solidarity to Portland and the demonstrators that have done such an amazing work of speaking truth to power in this their time of difficulty. We send our solidarity to them. David Rovics, I think we should get him to join us sometime soon. He's a songwriter, one of the finest political voices there is, who's doing a lot of internet work from Portland, where he lives right now. And it would be great to have him come on the program, and I think he'd do it in a flash. Come on on a Sunday. Maybe we can do that soon, given the situation in Portland. Those are the announcements that I have right now. I urge you to be in touch with the church. We're here just about every day. We're working really hard on figuring out this challenge with our heating and air conditioning. It's a ton of work. We're getting prospective contractors and getting estimates and designing a system for all 5 floors of this building is a lot of work. So the auditorium is empty, but we're here and we are working hard for the day when we can be together again. I want to announce to you that we have regular program committee meetings. If you're interested in finding out about when our next meeting is, you can call the church and we'll give you the link to the next program committee meeting. We also have in September, let me tell you the date, I'll look it up, our opening, 2 things in September to announce. One is our annual meeting, which is Sunday, September 13th. And it's usually in June. We postponed it because of the pandemic, but we're having it, hopefully, if the board decides this, we'll have it physically here in a socially distanced way around the auditorium with a Zoom component for those who feel they're unable to join us. I hope that is what happens, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be only a Zoom meeting, and we will elect a new board at that time, and we will be with each other. Hopefully we'll get a good turnout for that online meeting, and those who can't join us by online can join by phone or can be here present. We are taking every precaution with our tenants. We're meeting regularly with our tenants and figuring out all the protocols around us being safe together in this building. So we're taking it very seriously. And on that note,
Dean,
I believe Charlie, yes.
I've got on the screen an announcement of the July 26th Coalition locally is having their July 26th event on Tuesday, the 28th. The information's on the screen. One of the sub-themes is going to be highlighting the medical cooperation between Massachusetts and Cuba, and hopefully increasing that over the next couple of years.
Sure. It looks like a wonderful event. It'll be hosted by Lee Schlenker, who was with us recently, gave a wonderful talk. Lee Schlenker of Witness for Peace and others. Thanks for pointing that out to us, Charlie, and if you want to be up on a whole lot more of activist Boston events, go to ACTMA, which is something that Charlie works very hard to do to bring us up to date.
Can you spell that out, Dean?
ACT-MA. Is that right, Charlie?
Yeah, .org.
Got it.
ACT-MA.org.
Got it.
Once again, Allan, thank you so much for joining us. And greetings to our friends at First Baptist in Jamaica Plain. That is definitely a congregation and a community that is on our wavelength. And I've been to so many wonderful events there that I sometimes wish I say to myself, that event could have happened at community church. It's definitely we're like-minded organizations in solidarity with one another. Folks.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Dean,
Thank you so much, Allan. Anybody else? Dave.
phone me when you're outside with the coffee.
Got it. That's a little drug deal we're doing here on the side.
Caffeine fiends.
Don't tell the government. Ken, yes, please.
Yeah, I wondered how the cook is, and also, I don't remember his name, the former president out in Waltham who was sick as well, you said?
Yes, I will tell you that Luis Guzman is fine. He lives in Chelsea, and like too many in Chelsea got struck by the COVID, and he was in the hospital a couple of days. But this was now 2 months ago, and Luis is fine. He's at work. He's doing well. He really misses doing the Sunday events here and cooking. Allan, you should meet our own Luis Guzman, who is our cook. Oh, yeah. And our own hospitality minister. Luis is from El Salvador and cooks for us every Sunday that we have a Sunday event here. And,
I can't wait to meet him and get back in session. Maybe I can learn some new recipes.
All right. Arroz con pollo.
Okay. And Dean, how about Waltham?
Yes. I will tell you that Dick Crowley is in a nursing home in Waltham and has decided to give up his apartment. It looks like he will not be living independently anymore. But I have been in touch with Dick, and he is receiving phone calls and also receiving visitors occasionally. They're allowing some visitors to come. If you get a hold of me just by phone, I will give you a phone number if you'd like to call Dick Crowley. I'm not going to do that on the Zoom, but please be in touch with me, and I will give you that information. Dick would really love to hear from any one of us who knows Dick and wants to give Dick a cheer up. Dick was our president for a couple of years and did a marvelous job, and he's now confined to a nursing home. I was hoping he would be here with us either by Zoom or by phone, but I have not seen him listed. Anybody else want to say hello? Let's see, there's Sonny and Jean, so good to see you. And there is Barry Warner, there is Charles Goodell. Hey, Charles, it's great to see you. And our board member, Ron Elbert. Ron, I hope your move is going well. And Kevin and Nancy, Jim, Ken, say goodbye to everybody. Dave Lewitt, Charlie and Karen, and whoever else is joining us on YouTube. I haven't checked to see how many more there are there. We will see you again in August. There is a dream about having our customary CCB picnic in August, but there's the whole issue of social distancing. Maybe we could do it in a park far away from each other safely. I'm welcome to start that conversation. We usually have the picnic on a Sunday afternoon in late August. Let's talk about that if there's somebody wants to talk about it. We usually have it in our backyard, but it's not a big enough backyard to really make an invitation to have a bunch of people back there. It's complicated, but we could maybe have it in a park, bring our own chair, bring our own food, say hello to each other face to face. Okay. If there's nothing else, I will blow out this candle in honor of John. In honor of Cuban Independence Day. Is there someone? Let's see. Someone was saying something.
That was me, Lenny.
Hey, Lenny, calling from Maine. Lenny, talk to us.
I've been here the whole time. I was watching on YouTube. I'm confined to my smartphone. I don't have a computer set up right here just now. I will, but I've enjoyed the whole program. So nice to be with you all.
All right, Lenny, great to hear from you too. And everybody take care. Love you all and be in touch and do good work and be safe and be careful and talk to you soon. Meeting at the building, soon be over. All over this world. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Thank you, Allan. Amen. 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 Hallelujah. Like they say in South Africa. Bye.